Oh, there we go. My stream is live.
Once again, if our in-studio
Well, apparently my stream is live. Yeah, I was fooling around setting it up, but apparently it gives people a notification when I go live, so I guess it's live. And I'm also not going to use that password you saw me generate, so don't go trying that. I'll just shut that right down. Yeah, so I'm going to do some Blackbox log analysis, I guess, and anybody who wants to watch me do it live is welcome to. And you can ask questions in the chat. I'm going to put a note up here. Hang on. Anybody who's hanging around, just hang around. I'm still setting it up. This will be the first test stream, I suppose. It will not be very professional. But since you're here. What's the URL of my stream? Thank you very much. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's do it. So that looks like p-term oscillation to me. It looks like the problem with that is that You can always fix it by lowering your P gains, but that doesn't always result in the best handling. So, but the first thing I would do is turn down the P gain. Let's take a look at the log, though. Where's the log? There's no log. Haha, there's no log. It's just a video. All right, well, I think I actually already answered this one briefly, and since there's no log to dig into, we'll call that done. Let's do the next one. Okay. Looks like I already downloaded that one. Yeah, you can up the D as well. Haha, I laugh every time I say that. You can increase D term as well, and that sometimes fixes P term, those prop wash oscillations, but there's sort of a point of diminishing returns where you're making things worse rather than better. So if you are not already in the sweet spot with D, then your P may be a little too high, and then you raise D, and that reins it back in. But if you are in the sweet spot with D, you may that just may be as good as it's going to get for you, and in which case changing the D will make things worse, not better. Okay. Yeah, so excess D gain will, no, I don't think it'll get sloshy. It will get wet when it'll amplify noise. So what you'll see is that there will be kind of a roughness at high throttle or other times when it's noisy. Let's see. Bad oscillation. Okay. So you hear the kind of shudder in the motors right there? Right there. That's indicative of something. I'll play it again. Right there. That shudder in the motors is indicative of something. We're going to look at the black box and we're going to see it. Let's see if we can download this video. Yeah, that tune is not bad. That tune is quite good. You say I wouldn't touch the tune on that. That tune is quite good. But it could be better. It definitely could be better. Okay, well that may take. Oh, there we go. We got it. So here's how I sync the video. Let's see. I think it's actually quite close to the beginning. Yeah, it's quite close. Oh, he doesn't have a beeper. Yeah, he doesn't have a beeper. It makes my job a little harder. Yeah, I agree. That's my first guess for that kind of oscillate. Not really an oscillation, but what you're hearing there is, I think, too much D. Have I got the right file? 223.618. I'm sorry, I'm distracted now, so I want to make sure I'm not making any dumb mistakes. 223.618. Yeah, that's the right file. Gyros look acceptable. Not spectacular. This is a little... Yeah, that's a little not great. That's the roll axis too. That's surprising. Let's get the video synced up. So there's no beeper on the video, so we're just going to have to guess, but I guess it's pretty close. Maybe he already synced it for me. Yeah, it doesn't have any indication of the sync. Okay, well, let's just see if it's synced. Let's watch the sticks. It's pretty close. So let's look at the roll axis then. That's 100% zoom, is it? Yikes. Yeah, okay, way too much D. Yeah. That looks like excess D gain. Let's look at the config dump here. 254. (22 and 18). That sure looks like the defaults. Maybe not the P gains though. So yeah, there's so much movement on the D term here that I think I would reduce D gain. My first thought would be that you have a gyro problem, but the gyros look super clean. I mean, they're not like super clean, but they're pretty clean. It's only the roll gyro that looks like it's having a problem. The reasonable range depends on a lot of things. Like depending on what version of Betaflight you're running, the D term may have a certain reasonable sort of range that it can be in. It just depends. It's the type of copter you have, 4S versus 3S. But like if you have a D term of like 50, then I think that's like probably ridiculously too high. You know, so those are pretty close to the default values. And so I think they're probably not, you know, they're not ridiculous on their face. The roll gyro, yeah, it certainly could be. Anytime you've got something happening on just one axis like that, that could be indicative of something, except that like vibrations are often worse on yaw than on pitch and roll because of sort of how the copter moves. Let's look. The gyros don't look super noisy. So we look at the roll axis here and we see that the D term is freaking out. And that could be that you have a lot of noise on the roll axis, but it could be you have too much D gain. D term amplifies noise when it's too high. So we look at the gyros and the gyros look relatively clean, which makes it then feel like excess D gain, in which case we would reduce the D gain on roll. Let's look at pitch and see if that fixes it. See, if you look at the pitch D gain, we can see that there is a lot of sort of high frequency wiggles and jiggles here, but that's really an artifact that seems to come and go depending on what Betaflight is doing with its filtering. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. But the fundamentally the pitch D term looks okay. This high frequency noise we could deal with filtering, but we could also just leave it alone because the overall amplitude of the D term is not bad. The gyro has a lot of high freak on it, though. It looks like just super low amplitude, much more so than roll on pitch. Let's go back and look at the gyro and see what we got there. The gyro has a lot of high freak. Yeah. So, like, when I look at the gyro, this looks like what I would call high frequency noise. And this here, on the roll gyro, we can actually see distinct uppy downy there, right? And that I would not call, like, high frequency noise, more like, you know, medium high or medium frequency. So this feels to me like a tuning thing, like the P term is flipping out, whereas this feels to me like it's actual vibration or noise on the gyro. It's not true to say that the D term just tames P or accelerates it. Thank you. That's exactly right. The D term, whatever the P term is doing, it makes it do it more. So if the P term is climbing, it accelerates it and makes it climb faster. If it is, and that's not actually true either. It's not the direction the P term is moving, but the speed with which it's moving. So If it is accelerating in the upwards direction, the D term accelerates it more. If it is decelerating in the upwards direction, the D term decelerates it more. So it sort of makes that, you could say that makes it more extreme in both directions. Okay? If the D term is slowing down, or if the P term is slowing down and decelerating and starting to turn around, the D term will help the PID sum turn around faster. But it also amplifies the P term when the P term is accelerating. So raising D can sharpen a copter's response. If you only think about D as dampening the P term, then you wouldn't expect that. But it's true that in general, the higher your D gain goes, the higher your P gain can go, because the D gain helps the P term avoid the oscillations that are the primary limit on how high the P term can go. But the D term also amplifies noise. So there's a point where the D term will be unable to restrain itself from flipping out in response to the vibrations in the system, and it'll go wacky. So there's a limit on how high D can go before things get really bad. The D term looks okay on pitch. Yaw looks... so we have no. The D gain is 0 on yaw. You can see because there's nothing here. I feel like I've looked at this file before. I wonder if I made this video already. Oh well, making it again, I guess. The P gain is acceptable here. The P term is always spiky on yaw, and it just always is. This level of spikiness is acceptable, the magnitude here. But if I keep looking, like here, it's getting pretty bad. I don't like that. The throttle is raised, though, so maybe that's okay. I like that in Betaflight 2.6, there's an added yaw filter. I'm not sure if it's the P term filter or what, but yaw often needs a little bit of extra filtering. You say maybe a cleaner set of props. So a cleaner set of props would clean up the gyro noise, but the gyro is not, well, it's not spectacular. Like if I look right here, this level of noise on yaw it's like not the best I've ever seen, but it's okay. Your copter probably flies fine. Same on pitch. Now right here, this does not look to me like bad props. I would expect this to be a higher frequency and a thicker line. It looks like you see how right here you can actually see an individual 1, 2, 3, right? When you zoom out, you can see it. It hasn't all squished together into one thick line. So that says to me that that's probably a tuning thing, a PID thing, not like just some noise. Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up, and we're going to move to the next one. What I would say is take your... I feel like a broken record sometimes. You can't tune your copter while your D gain is possibly flipping out. And you can't tell whether you've got a vibration issue or whether you've got a tuning issue while the D term is flipping out. It's a chicken and the egg situation. So what you have to do is you have to reduce your D gain to like 5. So you're at 18 and 22 now. Take them both down to 5. Pitch and roll, D gain down to 5. If the D term still is flipping out, if the D term, go to 100% please. If the D term is still flipping out like this, see, look, you're only at 1500 throttle, 1600 throttle, and it's like really flipping out. If you lower the D gains and it's still flipping out, then you probably have a noise problem, a gyro problem. You need to go look for a mechanical source of the noise, like bad props, like an off-balance motor, or like a flight controller that has a sheared standoff nut or screw, okay? But if you lower the D gain and this calms down and things settle down. Now, the copter may not fly the best, but it settles down. Now you know that excess D gain was the problem. You can first tune your P gains to right where they need to be, and then start raising your D term back up again until you find the happy medium. And maybe add some filtering, but I feel like less, well, 261 does something different, but in general, I feel like less filtering is better for the D term. Okay, so we're going to close this one out, and we're going to move to the next one. I sure hope this is recording, because if not, it's going to be pretty bad. I guess I should not delete these. I shouldn't delete these, because I'm going to have to go back and post them to the thread. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Next. Okay, I just did that one. 1427, 1441. Oh, this is a big copter. 450 Forest 5000 LiPo. This is a big copter. NAS 32 running iNav. Fast, strong oscillations. Fast, strong oscillations are almost always excess P gain. Almost always. The thing is, if you have excess D gain, you will get roughness in flight. You'll get twitchiness maybe in flight. In extreme cases, you'll get real jerkiness in flight. But oscillations, back and forth oscillations, are almost always the P term. Let's pull this down. And we have no video to sync, which in some sense makes our life easier. What are the two files? There's no difference between LuxFloat and rewrite anymore in Betaflight. Any differences that used to be underlying are gone. Even now, Boris has made it so that the PID gains are scaled the same and the rates are scaled the same. So Boris actually suggested to me in a private message, he said, now that I've made these changes, an interesting test to do would be for you to take the exact same PIDs and translate them from rewrite to LuxFloat and the exact same rates and see if it flies any different. It shouldn't. But it has been the case for a long time that the underlying logic in LuxFloat and rewrite was identical. So the idea that one's going to fly better than the other is moot. It's bogus. The only reason LuxFloat was harder to tune was because you had 0.1 steps in the configurator, and as a result, you couldn't get as fine a setting. But people say, oh, LuxFloat doesn't fly as good, or rewrite doesn't fly as good. Underneath, they fly the same, and it's only just the ability to input the PID numbers that is different. I fly rewrite as well. The reason I fly rewrite is because if you have an OSD, well, now it's not a problem now that Boris has fixed it. But if you have an OSD, it's impossible to tune LuxFloat through the OSD with your sticks like MWOSD, because you can only go up 0.1 at a time, and that's too big of a step for LuxFloat, but for rewrite it's fine. So I always flew rewrite. ESC issues with air mode. My understanding is that ESC issues with air mode are almost always you have a problem with min throttle, probably. Air mode adds authority at the bottom end of the throttle range. So it's not going to cause like a desync or something, except in as much as the motor might throttle up more aggressively than it used to. But if that was a problem, you would have had the same problem by just punching the throttle, right? So yeah, so adjust your min throttle is my thought if you have ESC problems with air mode. The difference between air mode with a higher min throttle versus an idle up. The thing is, idle up never lets the throttle set point ever go below the idle up point. With air mode, if the sticks are centered and the throttle is down, the throttle set point internal to the mixer goes down to 0 or to min throttle or whatever. And it's only when you deflect the stick that then the throttle set point is dynamically increased by the air mode until the stick recenters. With idle up, the throttle set point never goes below the idle up point. Okay? So it's better to use air mode because when the sticks are centered, the motors will idle slower, and it's only when you move the sticks that the motors spin up. Whereas with idle up, they just always are throttled up and they never go below a certain point. Also, you don't need to raise min throttle with air mode, but if you're having problems with the motors stopping and losing authority in flight, then you need to raise it. Okay, let's download this file. Mm-hmm. 450 nasal. Remember, my prediction is excess P gain. That's my prediction. Let's find out if I'm right. Oh, we got to get this video out of here. There we go. You're gonna give me a lot to work with. Yeah. Well, we got D-term oscillations for sure. Whoa, yeah, ouch. Ouch. D-term oscillations. Excess D gain, definitely. We don't see anything. The thing is, your throttle's not up. Yeah, I still think it's excess D gain, but when the throttle is this low, you often get this kind of resonance oscillations that don't really mean anything. Oh, here we go. Are we flying now? Are we flying now? Yeesh, D-term is crazy bad. Okay, so let's turn off the D-term and see if the P-term is also oscillating, because fast, hard oscillations are not usually the D-term. But the D-term is definitely too high. I don't see P-term oscillations, those hard sinusoidal oscillations. Thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, yeah, so here's some oscillations in the P term here. But the first thing I see that is a problem is that the D gain on roll is too high. Let's look at the P term, or the pitch. Yeah, oh, way too high, way too high. Look at that, that's terrible. D gain way too high. Way too high. Okay, so maybe there's something else that needs to be changed about the tune, but it's like, you go to the doctor and you sit down and you say, "Doctor, my knee hurts," and then the doctor takes your blood pressure and it's 200 over 120, and he's like, "Oh," and you're like, "But what about my knee?" And the doctor's like, "Hang on, let's talk about your blood pressure." So in this case, there may be something else going on with like the P term. Like this is a very clear P term oscillation right here. Okay. But the fact that the D term is so like preposterously high and it's flipping out means that we need to address that first. So the thing to do here for Martin 555 is, number one, reduce the D gain on pitch and roll, and probably yaw too. Let's look at your config dump and just check what your PIDs are. Yeah, I know, you're exactly. Why is the P so active at nearly zero throttle? And the D as well. It's hard to tell if you're even flying. So also, I mean, I guess maybe it's hard to fly with, like, the throttle barely goes up. Here the throttle goes up a little. It's hard to tell it's hard to judge this tune, because a lot of times we do see hyperactive D term at low throttle because some kind of a resonance is happening, and then as soon as you raise the throttle it goes away. But we haven't been given a lot to work with here, unfortunately. But, to make the best of what we got. Hey, wait, he actually uploaded 2 files. Let's look at the other file before I write it off. If I write off the first file, you're going to say, "What about the second file I gave you?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I was too busy live streaming. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry." Okay, so that was LuxFloat, I guess. Here's rewrite. 24 seconds. Yeah, it's better. It's better. It's still kind of bad. Still excess D gain though. Possibly hovering in ground effect. That's a good guess for why these oscillations are here. So, the number one thing I would say would be, I really can't diagnose this. I can say that the D term looks hyperactive here, but if you're hovering really low in ground effect, then I just don't have anything to work with. Wow, that's pretty. Look at that. like a Chinese dragon flying through this D term. Yeah, the D gain is way too high. It just is. It just is. Even if you're in ground effect, that's just too bad. Let's look at the tune here. See, it's only 23 and 23. That does not feel that high. But what version? Oh, this is iNav, isn't it? This is an iNav. This isn't a 112. I don't know. Take the D gain down. This is going to be my go-to, I guess. Take the D gain down, and then actually fly the dang thing and try and get some response out of Blackbox. But right now, the D term is just masking whatever else might be going on with the copter, so I just can't really tell what is happening. And that's how I'm going to leave that. Okay, that was Martin 555. We're going to go to the next one. Well, I don't think he can try Betaflight because he's flying iNav. He's doing some kind of GPS assisted flight. Gtune. I have not used Gtune. I use Utune. That's where you tune it. Personally, I love that joke. I didn't make that joke up. Um, I don't think there are any auto tuning algorithms in Clean Flight or Betaflight right now that do a very good job. I have heard very mixed results with Gtune. Some people say, wow, it flies good. Some people say it just kept raising my P terms until they hit the limit and nothing, it just didn't do anything. And some people say it didn't change the P terms at all. So it seems very hit or miss, at which point you may as well just throw a die and change your P terms and say, oh, hey, that's a great tune. It seems like Gtune is not consistent enough. The thing is, everybody wants an auto tune algorithm, but if you put a little bit of attention into your own tuning, adjust the P gains, start with low D gain, start with a default I gain, adjust the P term until you start to get oscillations, then back it down, raise the I gain until the copter holds attitude on a hard punch out. You're going to end up in a pretty good place. And that's probably as good a place as as you were going to get with an auto tune algorithm. Now, some people say, oh, hang on. OpenPilot has an amazing auto tune algorithm, or Tau Labs, whatever Tau Labs is. No, that's what it is, Tau Labs, whatever their software is. They're like, oh, the auto tune there is so good. And I've never tried it, so I can't say, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. It'll tune better than you. The thing is, an auto tune algorithm has to be consistent. If a third of the time it gives you a good tune and a third of the time it gives you crap, and a third of the time it makes your copter oscillate so hard it flies away, then it's you just throwing darts at a wall, and you don't need to mess with autotune. You could probably do it better. And that's the other thing, as Waka one, whatever who you are, points out, the Betaflight default PIDs are. It's like Betaflight has made the envelope of good PIDs so wide that you could almost just, instead of doing Gtune, just install Betaflight, fly with the default PIDs, and if you're flying a mini quad, it's probably gonna fly better than Gtune would do just straight off the bat. So, okay, let's look at S3V0's post. Just looking for general advice. Alien 5-inch. Never heard of these motors. Huge. Let's have a look. Oh, 3000409. Huh. No, I know you're there. Hello. I know it's there. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, okay, my bad. Now is it there? Yeah, no, it's there. I'm confused. Oh, there. Why isn't it at the top? Oh, well. Okay. And he's just looking, S3VO is just looking for general tuning advice, anything disturbing. I'm going to pick this one. We'll start with the gyros. Gyros are super clean. Very thin lines on the gyros, super clean. Betaflight 261. Okay, so whatever's happening here is working great. Nothing jumps out as bad here in terms of noise, filtering, etc. No, this live stream was on purpose. I was intending to live stream tonight. I mean, I was just setting it up. It was when I was setting it up that I accidentally went live and people started. I didn't realize it would announce it when I went live. So I was like, oh, okay. I was going to just screw around with it a little bit before I announced it. But this was my way of forcing myself to do, because I'm so backed up. You guys have no idea. I have so much stuff on my bench to do, stuff to review and ideas for videos. Well, anyway, but I was like, I gotta do some analysis tonight. So I said, well, I'm going to live stream it. Then it'll be something interesting, and it'll force me to do it and put some time into it. And it'll be more fun for me. Yeah, everything is clean. This is super clean. When I see stuff that's super clean like this, I wonder whether, like, did he change the filtering? Like, is he filtering at 188 hertz or something? Which he isn't, because he's flying Betaflight 261. It's so clean. It's almost unbelievably clean how clean it is. So let's look at the PIDs. If you're starting with gyros this clean, you have a very good chance of having a great tune. If you're starting with messy gyros, sometimes it's just the best you can do, and there's nothing you can do to make it better. But you have to tune around it. Let's look at high throttle. Throttle goes up. Nothing's really happening. I don't know why this looks kind of... Does this look kind of low resolution, jaggy? What is that? I have no idea. I don't know why sometimes they look that way. Maybe you're logging at a super low rate. Are you logging at a super low rate? I don't know, because you didn't give me your Blackbox log. Let me show you guys a trick. Oh, hang on. There we go. I'm going to decode this to a CSV file. Oh, there's so many logs. Which one am I on? It doesn't really matter, actually. Log 2 of 12. So I've just dumped the Blackbox to a CSV file using the Blackbox tools. Loop time. Can loop time affect PIDs? Maybe, but not so much anymore. Loop time used to... Some of the PID controllers used to depend on the loop time, and if they would basically just divide by 3 at a particular place. They would take a certain value and they would divide by a fixed value, like divide by 3. So if your loop time was 1,000, then when you divide by 3, that's 3,000. But if your loop time is 2,000, when you divide by 3, that's 6,000. So the timing and so forth internal to the PID algorithm did not compensate for the loop time. All of the PID controllers in CleanFlight and Betaflight today compensate their loop time independent. It should not affect the PIDs. In reality, the PIDs may be affected slightly, because if you go from 1 kilohertz to 4 kilohertz gyro, for example, the P term is going to be much more effective at doing its job, because think about the P term. I'm not sure how to put this analogy. Basically, the faster you're sampling, the more effective the P term appears to be. And so you find that at higher sampling rates, especially when you go from like a 2,000 loop time to a 1,000 loop time and enable gyro sync, and then you go to even faster loop times, the P term seems to become more influential, and you need less D term and maybe even less I term, although I haven't really found that to be the case. So you may find that the optimal tune changes when you change your loop time, but it's not because the PID controller is loop time dependent like it used to be. And it's not going to be like a radical change, probably. Logging frequency. What should the logging frequency be for useful info? I try to get to about a 1 kilohertz logging frequency. Now, depending on it's not as simple as taking your loop time, because you have the gyro denominator, you have the PID process denominator, and then you have the Blackbox denominator. So if you have an 8,000 loop time, or a 125 loop time, which is 8 kilohertz, you may have a PID process denominator of 2, meaning the PID loop is operating at 4 kilohertz, and a Blackbox rate denominator then you would want of 4 to bring the Blackbox rate down to 1 kilohertz. And you may find that that's a little too fast, but if I usually start with a 1 kilohertz Blackbox logging rate and then adjust the denom a little bit slower than that, I usually get fine results. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a column, and we're just going to see what the difference is here. Oh, Jesus. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Oh, 16163. That's microseconds. So that's milliseconds. 16 milliseconds per slice. It must, yeah, you're right. It must be like 1/32 or whatever. How do you determine the lowest loop time? How do you detect when the board can't handle it? By the way, again, there's approximately a 45-second delay in this stream, and that's something YouTube does, and I don't know, it's my first stream, so I don't really know what to do about that. So if I seem late to answer your questions, that's why. Hang on one second. How do you determine the lowest loop time? You run the status command. I don't. Oh no, my copter is. I had to replace my board today. My copter's a mess, so I can't. I don't want to just plug it in and show you, but you can just take my word for it. You need to. You need to type the status command in the CLI, and it will dump the CPU utilization. If your CPU utilization is above 40 or 50%, I would start to get worried. And if the CPU utilization is getting anywhere close to 100%, you need to go to a slower loop time or maybe disable some features. Okay, so getting back to this log, S3VO, your Blackbox rate denom is so slow. Oh, it's a dump from internal flash and it's not one-to-one logging. So you're trying to make the most out of your data flash chip, but it's so slow. It's too low resolution. I can't really tell you much about what I'm seeing here. I don't see anything like radically wrong, but it's so resolution. You could have high frequency jaggies in here that are being missed. So unfortunately, I'm guessing you're at something like, what's your resolution? 16 milliseconds. Is it 132? That would be, yeah, that would be 2 kilohertz. I'm afraid I hope you've sat through this whole thing waiting for me to give you advice, and my advice is that I can't tell you much based on the Blackbox rate denom you have. You got to log faster. Like if you're logging at about 1 kilohertz, about 1 kilohertz, maybe to 500 hertz, those are all usable, but slower than that, it's no good. Yeah, that's right. Put it on a mode. Put it on a mode. And use a switch to enable it, and then do a punch out, do a flip, do a roll, etc., and then you make the most of it. And then land, get it on your laptop, dump the file, clear the flash, and then do it again. Or get an open log. But I can't do much with this, I'm really sorry. So we're going to call that one done. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. The gyro was low pass filtered by the low sampling rate. Yeah, that's exactly right. Hang on, let me back. Your P is growing with the error growing, not in a way for it. Loops time. Okay. That was 1443. I can't tell if this is faster than recording them at home, but it's more interesting. I'm having fun. The user was using built-in flash on a CC3D, and so that's why. No, even a slow SD card should be able to go faster than that. Frankly, the SD card should be able to keep up with the UART, unless if you've got a good SD card. And I can tell you, in case anyone here is not watching all of my videos. Oh, you just got a sneak look at upcoming videos if you were paying attention. Here's a video for you to watch. Buy this SD card for clean flight Blackbox logging on my channel. What SD card should you use?
Oh, no, you don't need to hear that. At the end, I've got right here links to 2 SD cards that will work very well with an open log device, and they should be able to keep up with with 250 kilobaud. The dangers of live streaming. If you're running 8 kilohertz, should you run at a higher sample rate? I don't think so. I think 1 kilohertz is fine. Remember that Nyquist, if you're sampling at 1 kilohertz, then you will be getting aliasing in the Blackbox log. This will not affect flight performance in any way, but you'll see aliasing in the Blackbox log for anything that is over 500 hertz. But that's quite good, right? I mean, there's really not anything above 500 hertz. So I feel that's another reason why I feel like when we went to gyrosync and 1 kilohertz loop times, copters flew so much better. It was like a revelation. It was night and day. And when we went from 1 kilohertz to 2 kilohertz, I gotta tell you, I mean, it handled prop wash a little better, and you could tune it a little sharper, but it wasn't like night and day. And now I've flown 4 kilohertz, and I can't really tell the difference. I mean, probably it's there, but I can't tell the difference. So if you're sampling, so that's why I think that gyrosync above 1 kilohertz wasn't as dramatic as it was when we went to 1 kilohertz, because the frequencies of interest in the copter are around 250 hertz and below, I would say. And if you look at the spectral data I've posted in some of my videos, you can see that it's mostly between about 150 to 100 hertz and below, but there's substantial stuff up to around 250 hertz. A small motor motor fundamental around 350 hertz. Definitely, by the time you get above 500 hertz, there's not much there. So a sampling rate of 1 kilohertz is more than enough to set your Nyquist frequency above anything that could really possibly be interesting. And higher sampling rates, the increase of the Nyquist limit is not, I think, the advantage of the higher sampling rates. For example, if you're running a filter, let's say you're running a certain type of filter and you need to collect 50 samples before the filter can do its work, okay? Well, if you're running at 1 kilohertz and you collect 50 samples, it's going to take, I'm stuck at doing math in my head and in real time. It's going to take 150 samples times, 0.001 seconds, 50 milliseconds. I hope that's right. And if you're running at 8 kilohertz, it'll take 1/8 of that, right? So you can use more aggressive filters at higher loop times with less latency, and that I think is one of the real advantages of higher sampling rates. Not necessarily that you've increased the Nyquist limit, because once the Nyquist limit gets above about 500 hertz, I don't think there's just nothing up there. So you increase it, it's all just a numbers game at that point. You're not really getting any advantage. Would the SP Racing board be better for Blackbox than the NAS32 Rev 6? Yes, because you're talking about the SP3 Pro Mini with the built-in SD card reader. Yes, absolutely. In that case, you no longer have the 250 kilobaud limit, so you have the best of both worlds. You have the speed of the SD card without we have the speed of a data flash chip, essentially. It's not as fast as a data flash chip, but it's more than fast enough. And you don't have the limitation, you have the size of an SD card. So yeah, definitely SP. If you're talking about an SP Racing board with a built-in data flash chip, then it doesn't really matter, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about HugoRogers' video, or his log, trying to tune a Krieger Betaflight 620. Is that right? You mean 260? Okay, great. Vibration movement at full throttle. Hey, try that max throttle calibration thing I posted about on my channel. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not tuning. If you're trying to tune oscillations, don't change your iGain. Your iGain will not cause or affect oscillations. I've turned iGain all the way up to 255, and it did not cause oscillations. Way back when, in the multi-Wii days, if you had excess iGain, you could get slow oscillations. I don't think that happens anymore. It didn't happen to me. So if you're trying to tune oscillations, I don't think you need to worry about iGain. Let's see. Significant movement. 70%. Yep. Yep, fine. All good. Good, good, good. Good approach. This is by the book. Good, good. Okay, so full throttle, all is not smooth. I got to tell you, let's try the top-end throttle calibration thing that I posted about on my channel. I'm not even going to look at the well, I'll look at it. But if your primary complaint is high throttle oscillation, then probably it's not a PID issue. You should try the top-end throttle calibration. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to move on. Oh, yo, hey! See, I got to read ahead. Let's see. Yeah, so that your top end is 1945, 1946, 1966, and 1940. This one is a little far out from the others, but it's 20, and that's not so far out that I would say, oh, that ESC is bad. If it was like 50, I would think the ESC might have a problem and I might think about replacing it. So I guess the problem though is that if you really want to calibrate this top end, you're going to need to go to 1940, and this motor will not be making full power. In fact, it'll be probably, it's 26 microseconds of difference. That's probably a noticeable step and reduction in power. And a copter can only make as much power as its weakest motor. So the fact that this motor, if you set your max throttle to 1940 to do the top end throttle calibration, um, then this motor will not make full power, and then none of the motors will be able to make full power in a big punch out. So what you can do, and I don't have a video on this, but if you're an adventuresome person, you can try it. You can adjust just this. So let's say you find that the top of the throttle curve is 1940 minus 30 is 1910. Okay, let's say you do the throttle calibration. Oh, no, this is the actual top of the BL curve. Okay, so let's say the top of the curve here is 1940. Now let's say you go in and you manually adjust this ESC's top end. In fact, what you would have to do is lower it. You lower the PPM max for this ESC until it tops out at 1940. So let's say this ESC's PPM max is 2000 and its actual RPM curve is topping out at 1966. So then that's a difference of 34. So you would subtract 34 from this number. And then what you should find is that both of these ESCs are topping out at the same place when CleanFlight sends when CleanFlight sends 1940, both of these ESCs will top out at the same place because you've changed this one's calibration to match this one at the top end. I hope that made sense. I'm not sure I explained it very well. I usually practice these things and then I go back if I screw it up and I re-record it if I start just babbling and not making any sense. But I guess what I'm saying is the top end calibration thing to do would be to set your max throttle to 1940, but you would have such a gap between this ESC and the rest of them that you might get a reduction in power. So you could adjust this ESC's endpoint to bring its actual throttle curve top end down to 1940 so it's in line with the others. Okay, let's take a look here. No, you can't tell the difference between your NAS 32, SPRF3, or your Dodo. That does not mean you're a bad pilot. It means Boris is an amazing coder. Boris has made it so that even an F1 board can fly almost as good as an F3 board. The advantage of F3 boards today is that you have more UARTs, you have a built-in S-Bus input. You have all these convenience features, but in terms of flight performance, they don't fly any better. Not practically speaking. You can run 2.6 kilohertz on a NAS 32 Rev 5, and you can run 8 kilohertz on a Lux board or a Cyclone, and I'll bet you that almost nobody could tell the difference, if anybody. Okay, but the other thing you get with a F3 board is the ability to run features that involve a lot of floating point math. Like the camera up tilt compensation involves a lot of floating point math. If for some reason you just adore LuxFloat and you want to run it, then you're going to be able to do it at a higher rate on an F3 board. So F3 boards, you can get the X-Racer F303 for I think it's like $35 now, which is a pretty good deal. I believe the Cyclone is around $35 as well. I could be wrong. At that point, that's a pretty good price for an F3 board, and you might as well go for it. But if you're really budget conscious and you'd rather spend $17 on a NAS 32 Rev 5, be my guest. It's going to fly just as good. Every so often I'll see somebody post somewhere on Reddit or whatever, and they'll be like, oh man, this flight controller flies so good. And I'm like, I mean, sure it flies good, but it's not like the flight controller is special. Any of the modern crop of flight controllers are going to fly so good. If you tune them correctly, they're going to fly better than you can fly for most people. So just buy whatever you like. As long as it doesn't have a hardware issue. Like the NAS 32 Rev 6, I won't buy it because some people have no problems with it, but I know a guy who has 3 of them, and all 3 of them the gyro has crapped out and died within a few months of him installing them. I won't buy it. I don't have to. There's too many good options out there for me to like take a chance that the NAS 32 Rev 6 has a problem. So, X-Racer is $27. That's good. Oh, it's out of stock. That's a shame. I need to buy some. Let's see what other comments have come in. All the SP racing boards use the 9250. Yeah, so my conclusion on the 9250 has a worse noise spec. I investigated that. My conclusion is that if there is a small difference in the tuning, then I'm sorry, a small difference in the gyro, then it is more than offset by the fact that you can run at 8 kilohertz. And the filtering at 8 kilohertz is just so ridiculous that it doesn't matter. But practically speaking, I don't think there's any difference. If you tune a 9250 board, you may, for example, not be able to get the D gain quite as high. And you may, for example, you might have to put bumpers on it if you want just the absolute nth degree of tuning. But realistically, it's going to fly great. And if you like a board, if you like the SP Racing F3 because it's, for example, got the built-in IR transponder or it's got the built-in SPI flash chip, then just buy it. Just buy it. Don't worry. That was a valid concern that was raised by Moto, and I repeated it and questioned it and investigated it and concluded that there's not anything there. And I know people like to harp on that. But I feel like that is a more than acceptable chip to put into these flight controllers, and that's not a big deal. Why haven't we, well, the multi-shot users have been tuning the top end for a while. Why haven't the rest of us started doing it sooner? I think that it didn't matter until we started tuning much sharper because of Betaflight. I think if you were to go back to CleanFlight 1.9 or 1.10, you would not get those same top-end oscillations. But I could be wrong. Maybe that's why we all used to use TPA, and we were covering up this issue. I don't know. I agree. OpenLog external is how I do it. I have a F303 board with a 16 meg flash chip. I still use OpenLog because at the end of the day, I want to come back from flying all day and I want to have stick overlays for every single thing I did in case I need to make a video. Or if my copter dies, I don't want to have to, I want to have a black box log of it. Would the SP racing, yeah, okay. Okay, great, I've caught up now. All right, let's do the next thing. That was HugoRogers. HugoRogers top end calibration. That's what he's going to do. And this was number 1445. 1446. This is Arakon. Cross posting. Spent all day tuning. It's a Shrieker 130. 1306 4000 kV motors. 3S tri-blades, 255 grams all up. Wait, you knock 5 grams off of that, 6 grams off of that, and you will not have to register with the FAA. Constantly shaking slightly. Okay? Constantly shaking slightly feels like a D term thing to me. He feels like you're talking about the D term to me. Okay? Really high D term spikes that dominate the PID sum. Dropping D results in strong bouncing after a roll. Okay, so there's a thing, you're doing everything right here. Everything you've said is exactly correct. You've said constant shaking, feels like D term, black box shows D term spikes. You lower the D term, now you get strong bounce after a roll. The problem is that your copter may only have so much authority. Possibly you need to raise the P term, okay? So if you're getting the bounce after a roll, if you get like a sort of an overshoot and a rebound after a roll, P may be too low. If you get kind of a ringing back like that, maybe only 1 or 2 bounces after a roll, then it may be excess P gain. But if you have like a overshoot and a kind of a soft bounce, like jerking back a leash, then that might be low P gain. So you did the right thing by lowering the D term. If dropping the D gives you a strong bounce, then raise the P. Let's see what we got for the video clip. You're going to get a zip file? What am I going to get? Yep. Let's go back to the beginning. You guys see the kind of twitchiness this copter has? It's real subtle, and I don't actually know if it's showing up in the stream. That is noise being amplified by the D term. When you see something like that, that's D gain usually. It could also be that your camera is loose. You could have just a loose camera or a loose camera lens that's shaking. Bumpy road, that's exactly right. As far as yaw, let's the yaw move. Yeah, do you see the little twitch to the right after the yaw move? Right there. Let's go back a little further. Oh, there it was. Now, presumably, we're going to have to look at RC command and see if that was uncommanded. But presumably it wasn't. Six two one one three. Where'd my black box go? I guess I must have closed it. Now, there's no indication of whether this is the exact file from that video, so I'm not gonna assume that it is, and I'm not gonna try and sync them up. I guess I'm gonna look for a yaw move. Here's a yaw move. Let's see what happens at the end of the yaw move. Yaw P is going nuts, as you can see. And let's get RC command in here as well. Okay, so here's where RC command returns to center, returns to 0. And let's look what the gyro does. Does the gyro overshoot and rebound at all? The gyro here, so notice that right here the gyro is positive, the copter is turning left. Here is the moment where the stick is centered. Notice that the gyro is still positive, the copter is still turning left after the move has been centered, after the stick has been centered. Notice then that the I term begins to go negative. The I term is trying to correct for this error that has accumulated. There's error because the stick is centered, so there should be 0. The gyro should be zeroed. The gyro is not zeroed, the gyro is positive, so the I term goes negative to counteract that and pull down the PID sum. And now the gyro is basically zeroed. So how long was there between the time when the stick was centered and the time when the gyro got to 0? 0.829, so 0.83 basically, and 0.8, a very minuscule time. We're going to call that as good as instantaneous. There is no date timestamp on Blackbox logs. The reason that there is no date timestamp on Blackbox logs is that the OpenLog device doesn't have a real-time clock. So there's no way for it to know what time or date it is when it powers up. Everything on the Blackbox logs is just dated 12/12, January 1st, 2000, whatever. Well, this one isn't because this one is, I pulled it out of a zip file. Do I have one of my own? Yeah, see, 1/1/2000, right? All Blackbox logs are dated 1/1/2000, 12 a.m. It would be great if an OpenLog device had a real-time clock, or if there was some way for CleanFlight to communicate the time and date to the OpenLog device. Unfortunately, CleanFlight also doesn't have a real-time clock, so CleanFlight doesn't know what time or date it is either. Basically, this was not useful. This particular yaw movement was not useful. Here's another yaw movement. The stick returns to center here. The gyro is basically zeroed here. So we're not seeing any uncommanded yaw movements really at all. The gyro is it's not overshooting. It's returning to center. I'm going to guess that he bumped the stick. I'm going to guess that you bumped the stick. If you can show me the exact example of where the problem is, then we can confirm or deny that. But so far, the yaw moves I'm looking at are not seeming like they're showing any significant problems. Here's a yaw movement. Stick returns to center here-ish. Gyro returns right back to center. So it looks like yaw is working as it should. Yaw P gain may be too high based on the size of these bumps here. That's going to create sort of noise and vibration for the copter, but it actually shouldn't significantly affect your yaw performance itself, but your yaw P gain might be a little high. So P is proportional to the error, but because it's being multiplied by P, it's not exactly the error. No, this is a common question. Blackbox does not show the actual value of the error. It's not, I don't know why. It seems like, I mean, the error is calculated, so it seems like it would be easy to just add a line in the source to dump that, but it doesn't. But you don't actually, I'm not sure, maybe somebody could give me a good reason, but I'm not sure why you would care what the actual error is. I mean, you need to know if the error is large or small or growing or falling, but the actual value of the error doesn't seem really relevant. Benjamin Miller, I am on 1446. These are the ones that are ahead of you. Post to the thread, Benjamin, and I will get to you as I can. But I have a lot. No offense. Yeah, P gain is a little high on yaw. Roll. It doesn't look terrible. It's a little messy. It doesn't look terrible. This is, here's these, I've seen these. These are 0.2 of a second apart. I bet you $1 million. 6.192, 6.315, 6.4, 6.313, 6.3, 6.4. Well, that's not 0.2 of a second. Darn. I lose $1 million. 6.0, 6.19. That's 0.2. 6.3. It's not 0.2. 6.31's no. Oh well. Never mind. I take it back. This is a little noisy. The D gain might be a little high, or there might be a little bit of noise in the gyro. The yaw gyro, sure. Oh man, that is awful. Okay, so this is why I always look at the gyros first, except this time I didn't. If you look at the gyros here, you can immediately see that the yaw axis has a problem, right? So you immediately go to the yaw axis and you see that the P term is kind of flipping out. Now, when I looked at the yaw axis without having looked at the gyros, I said, yeah, the P term looks a little high. You could lower your P gain. But now I look at this gyro and I go, no, you definitely need to lower your P gain. This is a serious problem. And that's why I always look at the gyros at the end of the day. Yeah, no problem. Just letting you know. The logs in Blackbox, how are they ordered? They are... oh, you're in luck. I have my SD card in right now. They're ordered numerically. Hello. There you go. So the OpenLog device has an EEPROM chip. It has a flash memory chip, and it starts logging with log 00001, and then it just remembers that number. So it can remember the number, and it numbers them sequentially, but it doesn't know what time it is. So since I installed this since I bought this OpenLog device, this OpenLog device has logged 322 logs. Okay, so let's go back and talk to Arakon here. Arakon, I don't see an issue with your yaw. Your yaw, the overshoot or the slight rebound that you showed. My guess would be that you bumped the stick. We could check, but you can go back, and if you see it happen and you're like, aha, I got it, go back and look at RC command and see if you bumped the stick. Okay. As for the constant bumping, my best guess is that the bumping is related to your yaw axis, because the yaw axis is super, super noisy when we look at the gyros, whereas the pitch and the roll axes are clean. Now, that bumping that we saw looked like excess D gain, and I didn't see or D term like flipping out anywhere. But the thing that I see is the yaw axis, and so I would fix that first, right? We got to fix the thing that is the most blatantly wrong, even if there's not like an obvious direct causal link between your complaint and the problem that we're having. we're going to fix the thing that's the most blatantly wrong first, if there's even a semi-plausible link, and we'll go with that. Okay? So reduce your yaw p gain is what I would say. And you gave me the dump, the video, and the log, so the least I can do is look at your dump. Oh, it's in the zip file. And I give you a recommendation. You're using LuxFloat. I guess it's changed so it doesn't show the float values anymore with LuxFloat. I guess that's my guess. It wouldn't make any sense any other way. Your P on yaw is 55. That's not that high. But let's try taking it down to 40. Or mess with yaw low pass hertz. Lower that to a lower number. I'm really surprised at how noisy that is, given how this is not a super high number for yaw. I'm surprised. But I don't have any better explanation or suggestions, so I'm going to go with it. Anyway, let's move on. Is the yaw low pass hertz really necessary? Yeah, it depends on your copter. The yaw axis is often the noisiest axis for reasons. And so it is often helpful to have a little bit of a low pass filter on the yaw axis. The other thing is that the yaw axis is often the axis which we demand the least of. So you're going to do these super fast snap rolls and flips, right? And you need those axes to be just really snappy with no delay. But on the yaw axis, I think you can often afford a little bit of delay, because the yaw axis isn't super responsive to begin with. So you might argue, well, since it's not super responsive to begin with, you need the most responsiveness since it's working at a disadvantage. And I couldn't tell you that wasn't right. But the yaw axis, I think, benefits from a little bit of filtering when the pitch and the roll axis. The pitch and the roll axis usually can afford to be a little bit dirtier if it means they're more responsive. But the yaw axis is usually sort of so dirty that we want to clean it up, even if it costs a little bit of responsiveness. Okay. Well, anyway, let's move on. That was 1446, 1448. Okay, raising min throttle got rid of the issue. I don't remember what the issue is. Oh, yeah, I said I don't think you have air mode active. Okay. Oh, great. Everything is great. Roll, fail, roll, fail. All right, well, VidSync is around 8719. Okay, let's pull this down and we'll take a look. Oh, is this you? If that's you, you're saying no worries. I'm happy. I'm happy to do it, but I'm also happy to drop it just because, I got a lot. Yeah, don't let go of the stick. Yeah, I've seen that before. The first time I saw that, the RC command was oscillating like a spring, and I said, I was so confused at first. And then I said, "You're flipping this. You're just letting the stick flip back to center on its own, aren't you?" And then the guy was like, "Yes, I am." Okay, I think you're telling me that's you, and we don't need to look at it. In which case, I'm gonna move on to the next one. But if that's not you, and then I don't want to leave this guy out, and so I will. Okay, great. Well, yeah. I mean, sure, yeah, Let's look at it. Yeah, if there's something helpful there, that's fine. It's a good use of our time. I got to download the files individually, though. He gave me the sync time and everything. It's the least I can do. Oof, 117. Oh, see, the time is just flying. I really hope I'm recording this locally, because if not, there's going to be some disappointed people. If not, I'm going to have to go do it all again. It's the actual reality. What was the file? Crap, I didn't even see. 2016-04. Yep, got it. Here's the Blackbox log. It looks like the video file is going to be 7 minutes. I may not be able to pull down the video. So you were having issues with your flips and rolls, and 4011, a roll fail. Well, let's just go right to it. 4011, okay. Since it's a roll fail, we'll look at the roll axis. Oh yeah, no, I remember. You had you were doing flips and rolls and you had movement on other axes. That's right. And I said it was because the motors were going down really low, and I guessed that air mode was off. I don't need to have those on. I'm not actually listening to anything. I guessed that air mode was off, and you were sure that air mode was on, but if air mode wasn't on, then I sure don't know what to tell you. Let's see what we got here. And let's look at the motors tab, or the motors traces. How do you sync Blackbox video and data starts? I'll show you that in 1 second. So again, the motors go super low, but they're not all low like they were. They're not like all down at the bottom. So you are getting some authority. And if we look at the gyros, do we see uncommanded motion? Well, that's a little bit. Maybe that's normal. Honestly, until you asked for this, I believe you. Air mode is on. Until you asked for this, I don't think I've looked at the gyros during a flip or a roll. Maybe there is normally a little bit of wobble on the other axes, and that's normal. But anyway, I do see that we have a little bit of movement on the roll and the yaw, or the pitch and the yaw axis. Roll and the motors. You say one motor maxes out. So I'm sorry, I don't see that. There's a big spike here at the end, but that's kind of to be expected. That the motors are trying to end the move. Okay. The fail is the second roll. Now oh, what did you do there? Holy crap. That's extreme. Did you bang the stick all the way back the other way? Wow. Well, I'd be amazed if your copter didn't flip out. Wow. That's extraordinary. Now you're going the other way. Wow, that is a crazy move. I hope your video finishes downloading soon, because I seriously want to see that. You did like a right roll and then an immediate left roll back the other way. That's kind of cool. I think I have seen stuff like that. So then the motors go to max, sure, and this one goes to min. And now I see. Okay. Now you're ending the move. And did you lose control there? Yeah, I see. It's a half roll. It's not a, yeah, I got it. I caught up. I figured it out eventually. Did you lose control there? Is that what you're saying happened? Again, sorry, it's taking several minutes to download the video, or it would be more helpful. So anytime you've got a motor going to max and staying there, that's probably not good. That's probably not right. What it means is that, I mean, if you've ever held a copter in your hand while a motor was spinning hard, you know it's pushing really hard. There's no reason why this motor should have to keep spinning at full throttle and not get a response from the copter. If you look, you can see that the gyro shows that the copter is still rotating. And in fact, the copter now is flipping out on the, oh no, that's a PID, sorry. It's rolling here and still rolling even though this motor is at full. So what that tells us is that this motor is not making thrust. The trace goes to max and stays there, and it's not making thrust. And I made the analogy of, like the wife says, honey, what do you want for dinner? And the husband doesn't respond, and then she says it louder. Well, in this case, he just keeps not responding, and that's the motor not making thrust. And she ends up just screaming in his ear, what do you want for dinner? And that's what we're seeing this motor doing. So we can infer that the motor is not making thrust by the fact that the motor is just staying at max like this. And then the question we have to answer is, why is the motor not making thrust? You could have a prop slipping, you could have a ESC desyncing, and just think about what is causing the motor to not make thrust. And that's the question that you got to answer. And I don't have an answer for you there, but like the roll gyro, look at the roll gyro. It shows that we continue to rotate. There's essentially no change in the rotational rate. See, the roll gyro goes slightly positive here, and then it stays flat. So there's essentially no change in the rotational rate. And you're centered here. The stick is centered. The roll gyro should be at 0. And then the motor recovers. So if the problem motor changes, well, that doesn't rule out prop slippage. For example, if your props need washers and you're not using washers, or if your nylocks have gotten weaker, I don't know. But I don't think it's prop slip. I don't think it's prop slip, but we can't rule out prop slip. How long is the total thing? And, oh, your video's finished. I think your video's finished. Yeah. Let's see if we can get your video in here and we can see anything useful. And you said your log sync was 8719. I have not forgotten the question about how do you sync them up. I have not forgotten. Now I'm going to put my headphones back on because I am going to need audio. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's watch it at full speed. I love that move. That's a great move. That's great. Let's watch it at half speed. Okay. I'm going to watch it again and just think about it. Sorry, you just have to give me a second. Yeah. The copter, yeah. That front right motor stopped making thrust. You can see the copter roll to the left and pitch forward. Hang on. Oh. My dog has decided to bark at something. Hold on. I'll be right back. All right, let's pick that back up again. Did you lose sound? I don't know if you lost sound. I don't know why you would have lost sound. Hello, check, check. You may have lost sound. Let's see. Don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I see the microphone jiggling. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the reassurance. Okay, picking up where we were. My best guess is going to be a desync. I don't hear the kind of screechy noise necessarily in the video, but it's just probably not a prop. So my best guess is going to be desync. We can clearly see in the playback that the copter rolls left and pitches forward, which indicates that the front should be the front left motor, right? Is it the front? Okay, yeah, it should be the front left motor has stopped. Here it goes. There. See? It pitches forward and it continues to roll left, and then it catches itself right there. So the front left motor stopped making thrust. And if it's not the same motor every time, then it's probably a setting issue. So let's go look at what your setup is. I don't see your setup. It's probably in your original post. Rotor Deep's RG20 with damp light. That's a very good ESC. 2205, 2300 kV. So that's not a high kV motor. I don't know why you would be getting desyncs. Presumably BL Heli, you're using BL Heli, and presumably you're at medium timing with low demag, but you should check that. So, you know, every motor is different. You certainly could try going to medium high timing if you haven't already. So I would play with the timing and maybe the dither setting, but I would play with the timing first. Dow 5042 blade, so it's not even like a hyper aggressive prop that's really loading the motor. Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that. I got nothing. Try new. Haven't you been thinking about upgrading your ESCs anyway? I don't know. I'm sorry, I got nothing. Dither. Dither is a setting in BL Heli. Dither adds random noise to the motor output. So if you're outputting this motor signal, the ESC will randomly fluctuate around that slightly. And the reason it does that is there can be resonant frequencies between the ESC and the motor that makes the motor have vibration at some speeds. God damn it. Well, my dog's bark collar isn't working because he's out there barking now. I'm probably gonna finish up because I gotta go I can't be out there at midnight barking and annoying the neighbors. But I got a couple things to do. I won't forget. Dither. So that's what dither is. It gets rid of some of those oscillations at certain frequencies, and also for some reason that I don't understand, it reduces the flat spot at the top of BL Heli's throttle curve. So that's what dither is. I got nothing. If I was in your situation and I was having these desyncs and I had played around with the timing. You have great motors. They're great. The red bottoms are great motors. Your prop is not a hyper-aggressive prop. They're not super high kV motors. I just don't know why you're having these. Because RG20 is a good ESC. But if I was in this situation and I just couldn't solve it any other way, yeah, did it work? Did upping min throttle work? If it worked, then more power to you. I mean, the thing is, the motor didn't stop, though. I don't think the motor stopped. Upping min throttle would keep the motor from... Oh, damn. You're going to teach me something today. No, look. This makes sense. I'm going to see this 3 months from now, and somebody's going to think I'm brilliant because you helped me learn this. Look, look, look. The motor's at 0 for an extended period of time. What if it stopped spinning? What if it stopped spinning? It was at min throttle for a long time. And it was spinning into the airstream, so the airstream was pushing on it to slow it down. And then BL is like, hey, get going, buddy. And the motor is like, and it can't get going, and it desyncs. And upping min throttle keeps it going. Yeah, I bet that's it. I'll bet that's it. Yeah, that makes sense. Up min throttle. I didn't think of that. Well, good. You can keep your ESCs. They're good ESCs. The other thing you could consider is there's a setting in BL Heli called startup power. Startup power. And startup power is how hard the ESC pushes the motor when it first gets going from a dead stop. It doesn't affect the scenario where the motor is already spinning. But if you raise your startup power, it will help prevent a problem like this because the motor will be more able to get going. But it might make it worse because if it pushes too hard, it'll desync. And if raising min throttle fixed it, then that's what you should do. The reason that you had to raise it, let's say they start at 1025 on the bench, but you had to raise it to 1055 to kill the desync. The reason is that on the bench, there's no air moving past the prop. So in the air, the prop is moving this way, and the air is moving that way and pushing on it. And so the prop has to work harder to keep spinning. It's a drag on the prop, and it has to work harder to keep spinning. The dog has stopped barking. The bark collar may be working after all. If he stays quiet, I'll keep streaming. Okay, so that's that. Great, great. I'll remember that. By the way, I know I've said this before, but that's why I started doing these logs, is because I only ever look at my own copter. How can I see everybody else's copter and really learn things? And so with you guys giving me stuff, it helps me learn this stuff. I just wanted to get better at tuning, though. How do you sync them? I'll show you how to sync them. Let's put this sync back at 0. It's going to be a little annoying because, so here we are at the beginning of the video, and I set the speed to 300%, and then I play it forward and I listen for the beeps. Let me turn my volume up. You'll hear it, of course. I'll put my headphones back on. I listen for the beep. Oh, hang on. Let me ease them.
Okay, this video, I just erased the flash, so hopefully I'll be able to get a Blackbox log out of this. Let's see if I can force the thing to do the weirdness that I was telling you before. It's definitely more difficult now with whatever this is.
We're getting close. So there's the power up. Now I'm listening for the double beep that will occur when he arms. There it was. So we missed the beep, but I heard the motor start. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to set it to 50%. I use 50% because that's as slow as you can go with the sound still moving. No, I'm going to go back to before he starts flying. Okay, there's when he started. Okay, so you are not running with a buzzer. And so I'm going to have to just guess and use your stick movement. So I hear your motor start. I don't hear the beep. Let me make sure I haven't missed it. Okay, so that's the moment when the motors start. I'm going to start the log there and see how well the sticks match up. If there's an arming beep, you can use this blue line to sync based on the arming beep. By the way, in case you're wondering, the drink of the night is not your father's ginger ale. I'm not sponsored by them, but I would like to be. Now let's see how the stick movements line up based on the motors. So now wait, did you hear that? The motors went and then his stick moved. I'll go back and watch it again. Okay, so the log is slightly late of the motors. So now I'm going to bump it back a few clicks and try again. Okay, so now it's slightly early. Let's check again. Okay, that's it. Now it's synced. You know what? I made the mistake of buying the best damn root beer instead of the Not Your Father's root beer, and it's not the best. It's not as good. It's kind of like a beery root beer. Like this is like a ginger, really a good ginger soda with alcohol, right? What's not to like? But the best damn root beer is like somebody kind of took a mediocre beer and poured it into a root beer, and it's kind of like, I mean, I'm still gonna drink it, but it's not the best. So maybe I should try the Not Your Father's root beer, because the best damn root beer is not the best damn, I don't think. Anyway, that's how I sync it up. If there's a buzzer, I just listen for the buzzer, the arming beeps, and I use this blue line to sync it up. If there is not a buzzer, then I use the motors and the sticks and do my best. If you don't have a buzzer, and I use a buzzer, and I think you should too, but what you can do is before you start flying, you can kind of nudge the yaw stick just a little bit or bump the throttle, go with the throttle, and it'll make it really easy to sync up. So that is how you sync up. Alrighty, let's keep going. The dog is still quiet, so let's keep going. It is 11:40 here. I'm just watching the clock. Well, this is... Oh, I don't know what that is. This is 1446. I think we did 48, didn't we? Yeah, we did 48. 1452. Oh, we're almost halfway through. Nasty oscillations, especially on yaw. SP Mini, Betaflight 261, RG20. Big motors. 2208, 2000 kV. I'll give you my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to run, and obviously you run what you want. I'm not trying to tell this guy he's doing the wrong thing, but my opinion is there is no reason to run a motor that big on a 6-inch prop. I found 2206 motors to be wasteful. 2206, 2250 kV to be wasteful on 6-inch props. They did not make more power than 2205 motors. They kind of just were extra weight for almost no advantage, and I think they were less efficient. And I thought, well, I don't know what these people are doing who are running these massive 2207, 2208 motors. I don't know how that is any better than like a good, maybe a 2206 or a 2205 motor. It just feels like that it adds a lot of weight and it sucks power, and I don't know if it makes more thrust. It doesn't feel like it does. Somebody educate me that I'm completely off base. Oh, yeah, well, if you're running 6S, good point. I mean, this guy isn't, but yeah, maybe on 6S you would want the bigger motor to maybe thicker windings to handle the higher voltage. I don't know. Yeah, no, see, okay, so if you're gonna run a 2-blade 6-inch on like a 2206, maybe, or 2207 or 2208, I think that's wasteful. If you're running a 3-blade 6-inch bullnose, maybe that starts to make sense. Maybe. But even then, I'm a little suspicious. I'm a little skeptical. Yeah, maybe. Crazy bottom end power, maybe. I didn't like it. The thing is, it makes the copter so much heavier, and a heavy copter doesn't fly well. There's only so much weight you can make up with power, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. My flight times were terrible. Yeah, that's right. It's so much weight. It's really hard to counteract it. And then you got to run this massive freaking battery. And I don't know. I didn't like it. It's not for me. Okay, really nasty oscillations. Let's start pulling the video down. Yeah. How do I... Oh, man. Go back? No, I don't know. And the log. Log.txt, okay. I guess it's down. Okay, so I don't think you gave me a sync, so I'm going to go ahead and sync it up. Oh, no, he did. Oh, well. See, that's easy. 4867. I'll do it anyway. Check it out. Here we go. I know it's coming. And then what I do is I just click start log here as soon as I hear the beep, and then I click 2 clicks to the right because that's how slow I am. And I'm pretty consistent. If I click 2 clicks to the right, it's almost always exactly right. Let's try it. Oh, no, wow, I was way off. I was way off. Still not quite right. There you go. Okay, now let's go to 100%, and let's see what we got. And actually, we don't need these. Yeah, that's pretty bumpy. Okay, now, you saw that, right? Did you see that, or am I going too quick? I bet you saw that too. You guys are pretty sharp. You saw that too. That's obviously not p-term oscillations, right? Because p-term oscillations are going to be hard back and forth. Honestly, that doesn't really even feel like a tune. I mean, it probably is tuning, but my first thought is, it almost looks like the camera's loose, except that it is related to the copter's movement. Oh, wow. Oh, that is so bad. It almost looks like the camera is loose. So this kind of uneven roughness is indicative of D-term. But it's so strong, it almost looks like some other mechanical issue. Let's look at the gyros first and see what we got. Oh, here it comes. Oh, wow, yeah. Yaw axis. Yaw axis is bad. Yaw axis is bad. It's so bad. Okay, so then let's go look at the yaw axis. I think we're going to wrap up in about... we're going to wrap up in about maybe 15 minutes. It will be 2 hours I've been streaming. I think that's probably a good... I wouldn't want to wear you guys out. You know, always leave them wanting more, right? That's what they say. 90, 100. Wow. Oh, I'm still looking at the gyros. No, it's the PI. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, so this is clearly not D-gain because, number one, there's no D-term because the D-gain is 0. Okay, so that's the first thing. This is not excess D-gain. Oh, this is an interesting one. We see the gyro slipping, right? And we see the p-term moving to oppose the gyro. And that's as it should be, because the stick is centered. So the gyro should not be moving. So the p-term is doing its job. If we saw the p-term moving and the gyro moving with it, then we could say the p-term is incorrectly causing these oscillations. Oh, did he? Oh, well, that explains it. Yeah, okay. Boris turned D off on yaw on 2.6. See, I didn't know that. I just upgraded my board to 2.6 and I've started, learning about it. It also looks like the p-term is lagging the gyro slightly. Look at where the p-term bottoms out, roughly. Notice that the gyro bottomed out first. The p-term is lagging the gyro, which suggests that the gyro is moving and the p-term is responding to it, right? If we saw the P term move first and then the gyro move, well, number one, we would expect the gyro to move the same direction as the P term. But number two, we would expect the P term to lead it, and it's not. It's lagging. So the copter is moving, and it's not the PID loop's fault that the copter is moving. The tune is not causing the roughness. The roughness is occurring, and the tune is responding. Again, the gyro peaks out about here. The P term peaks out about here. So something mechanical, something external, is causing the yaw axis to move. And you got to figure out what that is. I don't know what it is. Let's go back to the gyro. Do we see movement on the other axes when the yaw gyro is twitching? Not really. Nothing radical. A little bit, though. A little bit. Let's look at the motors. Yeah, bad CG, I don't think so. At 19, I'll look at 19.3 in a minute. Bad CG, I don't think so. If something was loose. I once had a copter where I didn't have any rubber on the top plate or Velcro, and the battery started slipping when I did radical maneuvers. And when the battery moved, the copter jerked kind of like this. If something was loose and heavy and moving, then that would cause this. Yeah, I agree. This is something mechanical. An arm is loose, a prop is loose, the battery is slipping around. This is something mechanical. This is not your tune doing this. You need to check the copter for loose nuts and bolts or something that is moving. It's not a desync. It's not that. Yeah, that's what we got here for sure. 19.3 yellow motor looked max. Let's look at that. Oh, I already was on the motors tab, wasn't I? 19.3, 543. I don't think so. It gets close. I don't think it maxes out. 1947. Oh, that's pretty close. Yeah, but it doesn't stay there. So, I mean, I think what that means is just that he had a radical, the gyro moved, the motor moved, or the P term moved, and the motor moved to respond to it. So it was a strong correction, but it doesn't seem like it's indicative of a problem because it didn't max and stay there. If a motor maxes and stays there, then that's probably indicative of a problem. But this is not indicative of, I don't think, of a problem. Yeah, so I'm guessing, yeah, loose arm screws maybe. Could be, no, that's, never mind. That's not what it is. Okay, so that's where we're going to go. Something mechanical that is resulting in an issue. That's what your answer is. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. This is 1452. We'll do one more. We made some good progress, and I had fun. It's more fun doing these live. Maybe I'll keep doing them live. We'll see. This is, we need some help from the master PID tuner. How about that? Roll axis D term. Room 4 of 7 at 6.3 seconds. Decent ESC. Actually, that's a pretty good ESC. That's an F390 chip. That's a pretty good ESC. If DYS keeps their quality up, it'll stay good. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you. Glad you guys lucked out. You can say you were there at my first live stream. F3 1000 loop time. Well, here, I've done this. Dial 60/40 cut down to 50/40. If you are not real good at this, if your jig is not real good, and if these props are going to be so out of balance. I did this with a King Kong 60/40 cut down to 50/40. One day I ran out of 50/40 props, or I ran out of 5-inch props. I broke the last one. More were in the mail from China, and I just didn't have anything to fly. And so I cut down a bunch of 60-40s to 50-40s, and they flew like crap because they were so off balance. And I said, forget it, it's not worth it. So good luck with that. I don't understand why you need... What does having a PPM receiver have to do with running one shot? Can you not run one shot if you're running PPM? I don't know. I think you can run one shot, and the one shot is between the flight controller and the ESCs. I don't know if that has anything to do with what receiver type, but you should skip PPM and get an S-Bus receiver. By the way, you have an SP Racing, you have an F3 board. Don't get a PPM receiver. Get an S-Bus receiver. Assuming you're running a Tyrannus, which of course everyone is. Not. I shouldn't make assumptions. You could get a Spectrum satellite. If you can get a serial receiver, it's way better. Anyway, let's look at this file. Nine 4 4 3 1. All right, and he said logged 4 of 7 at 6.3 seconds. But first, we're going to look at the gyros, as always. Log 4 of 7. Zoom out. Gyros look fine. Gyros are thin. No problem there. PPM and one shot works, but you have to use the 8th wire. Huh. Well, anyway. There's a bug with PPM and one shot. Oh, okay. Weird. But PPM is between the motor and the ESC. What does that have to do with... I mean, one shot is between the motor and the ESC. I just don't see how that could have anything to do with what you're inputting between the receiver and flight controller. But anyway, 6.3 seconds. I've completely lost track of what we're talking about here. D-term behavior on the roll axis. See, that's why I need to stop. I've just completely lost track of the thread. And we'll look at the roll axis. Oh, here's the twitches. These are the twitches. Are these going to be 6.2? 6.37? No, 6.49. Yes, I've seen this before. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. These weird random, and look at the gyro. See, the gyro has a twitch, and it results in the D-term spiking. So I think the question is, what is the gyro twitch? And I have no idea. I'm sorry, I don't have any answer. I've seen this multiple times before. You can, if you zoom out, you can see it very clearly. These regular gyro twitches that result in, I'm pretty sure it is gyro twitches that result in D-term twitches, not the other way around. But I have no idea. I don't have any idea of what this is. You see, you can see it clear as day. Let's think about it though. It's nothing mechanical, right? Nothing mechanical is this regular. What could mechanically cause this very regular twitching in the gyro like this? Yeah, I'll zoom in, but I'm pretty sure it's the gyro going first. At least it was the last time I saw it. I don't think you're actually going to be able to tell very definitively. See, I don't think you're going to be able to tell which went first. It's just too, it's too short and quick. This feels to me like it can't be mechanical. It's not like a loose prop or a flight control board that has a loose nut. It's going to vibrate, right? It's not going to go tick, 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 tick. So I think this is the gyro. I think you have a problem in your gyro. Or there's a bug in Betaflight. But I don't think so. What are you using? Betaflight. Well, so look, hey, upgrade to 261, because what could it hurt? But I think it's a gyro thing. And you're using an SP Racing F3. I don't know. If you catalog... I'm reading your about one shot. Oh, I see. It's because of the timer. Okay. Oh, I see. That makes sense. Got it. Thank you. So of all the flight control boards out there, NACE 32 Rev 6 seems to have more complaints about hardware than others, and SP Racing F3 has more complaints about hardware than others. So I hate to like point a finger, but here we've got an SP Racing F3 and it's having this weird issue. I don't know. Try a different board. That's not a very good answer because this guy's got his hardware that he's got. But I just don't know what's causing this other than like a problem. This doesn't feel like something in the tune. It's not something external like a mechanical problem. It's not a bug in Betaflight. So what does that leave? You think swap out the ESCs? But those are great ESCs. I mean, I don't fly them. I haven't flown them myself, but Quad McFly says they're good. They're F390 ESCs. BL Heli doesn't. I mean, I can't rule that out. The first thing I would do if I was having this problem is I would think about switching out the board for a different board. That's the direction I would go. The only other thing I can think of that it could be is a bug in Betaflight, like something is processing every so many milliseconds and it's causing a twitch in the gyro reading that isn't really there. There you go. You have an SPF3 as well? Did you have the issue? You're going to now be 45 seconds till I get an answer. You swapped out. Okay, so maybe it's a problem with the ESCs. I haven't seen this enough times to come up with a common thread. So maybe it's not the SP Racing F3. Maybe it's the XM20s, in which case I will not be buying those, if that's the case, which I'm not saying it is. Really? Okay, so you swapped your flight controller, you swapped your Lux for a NACE 32, and didn't have the issue. Okay, well, there's one man's opinion is that he swapped out his flight controller and it didn't fix the issue, and he swapped his XM20s and it did fix the issue. So maybe there's an issue with the XM20. I will keep paying attention. I wish I'd have paid more attention the last time I saw this, but it was just mystifying then. Now it's the second time I've saw it, and I'm going to be paying more attention in the future. Let's clean up some of these last questions, and then we'll close up. LuxFloat or rewrite on 2.6. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. There should be no difference at all. It used to be that the PID numbers were different, and now there should be no difference at all. Boris said in a private message to me, he said, you should be able to copy your PIDs from rewrite over to LuxFloat and copy your rates, and the copter should fly the same. And he said that'd be an interesting test for you to do once you try it. Maybe I will. But it just doesn't matter anymore. So fly whichever one you like. It shouldn't matter at all. And I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them go away in the future, since they're just basically a copy of each other. Bad bullets or solder joints. Why is it so regular then? Why is it so regular? It's not down to the millisecond, but you can see it's very regular. It doesn't feel like bad bullets or solder joints would be so regular like that. But this isn't really gyro noise. No, see, it's still happening. Oh, now. Oh, it's gone now. Is it back? Does it come? There it is. It's back again. It does look like it goes away at 0 throttle. That's interesting. Hey, that's interesting. If it was a oh, wow. Oh, there it is. Super strong. Super strong. Look how regular that is. Look how strong and regular that is. That's like to the, 12.7. 12.8. It's every one. The last one I saw was every 0.2 seconds. This one seems to be every 0.1 seconds. So regular. Gone. And throttle. Nope, no throttle. No throttle. Look, it's happening at 0 throttle too. And now it's back. Yeah. Okay, so swap the ES. Wow. Oh, man. Oh, so ugly. I can't look at it anymore. Swap the ESCs. Let's see. So then why are there two? So why are there two PID controllers? Because they used to be different. They used to be different a long time ago, and they've merged over time. Boris is a madman is why. Because Boris looked at LuxFloat and said, rewrite does this thing. It's got an error-seeking D term, but LuxFloat doesn't have it. I love LuxFloat. I must make it have all the good things from rewrite. And then LuxFloat had all the good things from rewrite. And then Boris went, wait, no, rewrite is the best. I must make it have all the good things from LuxFloat. And Boris has just been running around like a madman, making all the PID controllers as good as possible. And eventually they just all are the same and they're wonderful. So there you go. That's why. Yeah, he's been bonkers from the beginning. He's something. He's something. Somebody should pay him money. Because he bust his ass. Let's see. No, that was not the 6500 gyro. Despite my complaints about the 6500 gyro in the past, any effect the 6500 gyro may have on noise is extremely minimal and doesn't matter. So no. I'm going back through the questions just to make sure I didn't miss any. Definitely go S-Bus. When you go S-Bus from PPM, you will, if my experience was, I went S-Bus from PPM, and I was like, I think I feel the difference. I'm not sure. But if you fly S-Bus for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, maybe a week, and then you go back to PPM, you'll go, oh. And here's what it is with S-Bus versus PPM. You can fly PPM just fine, but like, you know how you're headed towards a pylon, and there's the moment when you're going to push the stick to the right to turn into the turn. And you have a sense of how early you need to turn in to push the copter around the pylon. With PPM, that moment is early. You are mentally leading the copter by another 50 milliseconds, let's say. And you adjust to that and you're fine. But then when you're doing like a slalom, right, and you need more responsiveness, you can't project that far into the future with your mind, and you get into trouble. Or if something quick happens and you need to respond to it quickly, you have less of a chance of getting it with S-Bus. Once you go to S-Bus, with the lower latency, you can lead the copter less with your mind and just fly it. And it makes a difference. Yeah, X4RSD. And I'm going to bed too. Well, actually, I'm not going to bed. I'm going to finish putting my copter back together. I had to replace my F303 board today, so that's what I've been doing all day. You'll see a video about that later on my channel. But I'm going to log off. Thank you guys for signing on. I hope it's been enjoyable. Hope it's been helpful. And as always, happy flying. Now I have to figure out how to stop this thing.